Now, the United States will lift the travel restrictions it imposed on 8 Southern African countries next week. The U.S., as you recall, was among several countries to impose travel bans after scientists in South Africa first identified the COVID-19 Omicron variant in November. In a tweet released yesterday, White House Assistant Press Secretary Kevin Munoz confirmed that the travel restrictions would be lifted at the end of this month. Now, for more on what this means for the South African tourism industry, we're joined by board member at SA Tourism, Thebe Ikalafeng. Thebe, thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much and good morning.
Thank you. What does the lifting in the ban actually mean for tourism in South Africa, given that we know in South Africa we get the bulk of our international travel from the UK, not necessarily the United States, but it is, I'm sure, a welcome reprieve?
Well, it's a welcome reprieve. I think what it really means is just a return to sanity. That sanity has finally prevailed because, as we have stated so many times, not just in South Africa but across the continent, that the ban on travelers to African countries, to South Africa, has been irrational, was not based on science. So to us, it's a return to sanity. But most importantly, at least for those who are planning or still can plan to come in post the festive season, post-Christmas, it means there's an opportunity to do so, and we welcome that.
How much damage would you say has already been incurred from that initial decision taken back in November to ban travel to Southern African countries, particularly South Africa? Is there a figure that is quantifiable at this moment?
Of course, it's quantifiable. I mean, it's as much as 80 to 90%. If we look at period on period, if we look at countries like the UK in particular, the numbers are down as much as 90%. And if you look at just broadly, not just looking at the period itself, if you look at just continent-wise, that as a continent, rather as a country, that travel to the country has gone down as much as 75%. But for period to period, as much as 90%. So it's been a devastating impact on the tourism industry for South Africa and for the rest of the continent.
Yeah, a heavy blow indeed. But let's look at this, Thebe. We are at the midpoint of our festive season. We're still in the month of December, so in terms of our summer season, we still have some way to go. Can any of what's been lost, the potential revenue, for instance, right, be recovered at this stage with the lifting of the UK's ban and, of course, the US's lifting of its ban at the end of this month?
Remember, it's not just the ability to come to South Africa, but it's also from a reciprocal perspective what happens in their countries. If you look at countries like the UK, for example, people cannot just all of a sudden come to South Africa now because what they know is that when they go back, they have to go into quarantine. You look at countries even within our continent, like Rwanda, for example, where people have to quarantine for 3 days, and other countries like Hong Kong, people have to quarantine for 21 days. So it's too late to salvage December. What we can do is we can focus on going into the future, what we can do as a country and as a continent. Of course, this means great opportunities for friends and family who are visiting in the continent, who are visiting each other, to take advantage of the opportunities of domestic tourism and the offers that are available to them to get to see their country, to get to see their destinations at better values than before.
You know, Thebe, while it's been argued that the initial decision was unjustified and not based on any sort of scientific reasoning or data, you know, sovereign states are always going to make decisions believed to be in the best interests of their citizens. A similar decision could be made 3 or 5 months from now, right? If we enter into a fifth wave or we discover another variant. Is there a way that we can better insulate South Africa's tourism industry from such developments in future?
The most important insulation is South Africans to believe in South Africa. If you look at the domestic market, I think the period leading up to 2019, before the COVID, before the pandemic.
I think we lost you on the line there, Thebe. We're going to try and reestablish that line. We're in conversation. All right, Thebe, I see we have you back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Please continue.
Thank you. I was saying that you ask what can be salvation and all those. I say that if you look at from a domestic perspective, up to the period of just before before 2020, domestic spend was up by as much as 70%. So it means there's really an opportunity to focus on our domestic market, and also if you look at the Pan-African market, which contributes about 75% of the tourism into South Africa, it means there's also an opportunity for us to attract to continue to attract the rest of the African market. So the best way to insulate ourselves, which is your question, is by ensuring that we remain an attractive destination for South Africans to get to travel the country, for the rest of the continent to look to South Africa as an opportunity. But of course, as part of a global community, there isn't much else that we can do other than to continue to do well. We should to lead in science, to be transparent, to collaborate with the rest of the world community to try and alleviate this devastating pandemic.
Yeah, sure. I mean, talking about venturing out into other and new markets, you've mentioned the Pan-African market. A lot of work has been done to try and encourage South Africans domestically to visit some of our tourist destinations. How would we best put our, best foot forward rather, in terms of venturing out into our Pan-African market, for instance? We know that there's a lot of talk specifically around Africa intra-trade to open up the borders and ensure that we are trading amongst each other as African states. Is there an effort, a concerted effort, to get tourism out into those markets too?
There's always been a concerted effort from a South African tourism perspective, because we've got like we have for all the major reasons, we've got to focus on the rest of Africa, so we've got a whole division focus on that. But we also understand the opportunity because we have the opportunities at hand. We know that 75% or so come from the rest of the continent. So knowing that, it means that we're really on top of it, and we are ensuring that we are attracting those other fellow Africans to come to see South Africa. Many of them come to South Africa for a couple of reasons. Some of them come to South Africa not just for business tourism. They come to our meetings. If you look at the Indaba, where we attract, which takes place every year in May or so, which attracts about 20, 25 countries from the rest of the continent. So from a business tourism, we're focusing our energies on that. The Meetings Africa, which takes place in February, and that's focused on really looking at South Africa as a place to host your meetings. So that's another focus on how we're looking at that, ensuring that if anybody wants to focus want to hold a meeting in Southern Africa, in Africa, South Africa is a better choice to do that. And of course, as I've said, from a leisure tourism, that's what the Indaba really focuses on trying to do, to make sure that South Africa remains that viable country, ensuring that at our annual Indaba, we should go back again next year, that we attract countries from the rest of the continent to look into to South Africa. But of course, from a marketing perspective, we have a focus division on the rest of Africa. We continually market. I mean, I'm in Ghana right now, and I was walking around the streets yesterday, and if you look around the streets here, we've got billboards for South Africa. For South African tourism, attracting people from Ghana to come to South Africa. And if you look at for us to be able to achieve this, it has to be a whole of country approach. So with South African Airways now, again, back in the skies with direct flights to Ghana, direct flights to Nigeria, direct flights to Mauritius, it means as a country, we are primed again to ensure that South Africa remains a viable and attractive destination for leisure tourism, for business tourism, and a place to invest in.
Indeed. Just to bring it back home, Thebe, just last week or so, the National Coronavirus Command Council opted to leave the country at level 1 lockdown restrictions and allow for interprovincial travel. Decisions like that are life-saving for sectors like yours. Do you get the sense that our government is finally at least coming to terms with the kind of economic impact hard lockdowns can have on your industry? I think the decisions made by the UK and the US to ban travel certainly, bolstered that particular position. But do you get the sense that government is on your side, at least, and understanding that even as they try to balance livelihoods and lives, that there is an important, weighing of interest to be done when it comes to balancing livelihoods in your sector and, of course, the lives of South Africans?
Well, I think let's just focus on our sector for a minute. I think government is definitely alive to the challenges and the issues. Whenever the president goes out to make an announcement about what level of we're going to be in, he most certainly ensures that he collaborates and consults with the broader industry, whether it's the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, which represents a majority of the property owners in South Africa, whether it is the Department of Health to ensure that whatever is done in the country is done to protect the lives of South Africans and really across board business. So yes, I think government is alive to the issues. The government is alive to the challenges. The government is alive to the impact that this virus has had in the country and in the country in particular on the tourism sector, which on its own contributes about 5% or so of employment in South Africa, and that's between 3 and 5% of the GDP of the country. With that in mind, the government is very much alive and the government consults, and it was the right decision by the government to stay where we are instead of moving it up and putting more strain on a very, very constrained and devastated industry.
All right, thank you very much. That was Thebe Ikalafeng. He is the South African Tourism Board member, joining us there to talk to us about at least what it means really to have the U.S. finally decide to lift travel restrictions, lift those travel bans imposed on several Southern African countries.